Okay, it is 9 o'clock. Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. The Chesapeake Region Safety Council welcomes you to today's webinar. John Rothe will be presenting EM 385 1-1. What is it? Why it matters, how to implement it successfully. Thank you, John, for doing this for us today. Today we are joined by Christy Bliss, who is the Director of Training and Consultation and the Mid-Atlantic OTIAC. I'm Kim Beard. I'm the Training and Education Manager here at the Council. I see 60 of you are joining us today. Thank you for being here. I have a few housekeeping items I want to cover before I pass it over to our director. This meeting has been recorded. You probably just got a warning about that. We're recording it. John has graciously agreed to provide his presentation to us as well. So in a couple of days, you can access this video and presentation on our website, right where you registered for this class on our website under safety webinars. So feel free to share that with your friends and family and coworkers. The recording will be ready in just a couple of days. So thank you for taking the time this morning, coming here on a Friday before work or in your truck or on the job site. What we're doing here today is we're knowing our game, right? We're trying to master these fundamentals so we could be champions of safety. And John Rothe, I appreciate you doing this for us today. While you're looking at your screen today on your laptop or maybe on your mobile device, I want you to just check out. There are some options you might want to use. You've got a little Q&A button, question mark, bubble. Feel free to use that throughout the hour. Throw in your questions that you might have. You can use the chat as well. And then do you also see that there's a hand raise option? John may or may not ask you some questions that you can chat answers to or raise your hand. And the Q&A we will get to at the end of John's presentation. So I think that's about all for housekeeping. Christy, you have the floor.
Well, thank you, Kimberly, and welcome everybody. Again, happy Friday. Thanks for joining us. You guys are in for a real treat today. I'm telling you what. If you have not seen or been in the classroom with John Rothe, this is a special treat for you, and you're going to want to come back for more for sure. So, John comes to us with over 30 years of experience with underground construction, utility installation, and safety training. In fact, he's been with us here for just over 19 years and he's going strong and doing lots for us. So please come down and visit us here so you can be in his classroom if you haven't been there yet. Also, John has a real passion. He's unique passion for safety training, and what he does is shines through in everything that he teaches and what he talks about. And you're going to see that here today when he talks about EM 385. And we really hope that you'll get a lot out of this because John really strives to make sure that the people he preaches to and talks to are coming away with some safety experience and safety knowledge and can go into their workplace with some hands-on information. And he really does that well when he teaches and does these webinars for us. So please, please, please welcome John into your camera, your home, wherever you are. And John, have a great day today.
Yes, ma'am. And I do appreciate being part of this and being part of the council and being lucky enough to have two wonderful bosses such as Kim and Christy. As Miss Beard mentioned, this is why it matters and how to implement it successfully. I also want to touch on what happens when you do have a good program, some of the benefits that are. All right. So as we go along, hopefully everybody can see my screen.
Looks good, John.
All right. And this is the Army Corps of Engineers. This is where I had gone one time and trained. So we're going to get into it. Now, Safety and Health Requirements Manual. The purpose is to understand what it is, why it's important, how to implement it. And what I want to give you is some of the benefits that you're going to get out of it. All right. Now, the M385 manual has a rich history. It's been around since 1941. Its purpose was to standardize safety programs, construction projects, operations all over, whether it be here or abroad, outside continental United States, to make sure that those projects taken on by those contractors, federally funded operations, don't mess up. And they have a more proactive approach. There is mandated through planning, documentation, risk management. We have to make sure that we've got everything going on for the Army Corps so they can be a success, we can be a success. I have a client I just talked to yesterday. I wanted to get some updated status from them. I helped them institute an EM385 type program with them. They are 3 months ahead and $3 million that they still have in the budget. They have done so well. All right. Now, where the requirements of this manual, the applicable laws, criteria, ordinances, whatever you want to call them, the authority having jurisdiction, whatever the most stringent is going to govern. So we take, say, EM385, their inspections of first aid kits is every 3 months. OSHA's is once a week. So here OSHA would be more requirement. OSHA requires at least one person trained and willing to provide first aid. EM385 requires 2. So now EM385 is better. So we take the best of the best. Remember, OSHA is a minimum. If we go to any of the ANSI standards, they're either a consensus or proprietary, which was either all in favor, say aye, or straight vote. Those are negotiated as we go through. So best practices, EM385 tries to incorporate the best practices. All right. Now, what we do, OSHA, is the absolute minimum standards. Their primary focus is private sector. Guys like you and me who are out there dealing with the world with OSHA, a lot of times I know we have cowboys, we go out, we get it done. We're not paying attention to a lot of the rules. We're just making sure that everything is coming off the way we can. EM385, more stricter, detailed, project-specific requirements, forces you to focus on the safety. For example, they have an AHA for every task. I know a lot of people say a JHA, JSA, pre-task work plan, whatever it is, we make sure that we are following it. Everybody is following it. This has been around since, and they really started pushing it in 1967 to make sure that the AHA with the risk code, there is a RAC code, a risk assessment code, that you have said, okay, I know we take a chance every day when we get up. I know it's a risk just to drive to work, but it's a risk we have to take. There are some risks we don't have to take. Mandatory, they have a site safety and health officer. They have 3 levels of site safety and health officers. So minimum of 5 years, have to be dedicated to the project, that kind of thing. They have daily inspections and documentations. OSHA requires inspection. OSHA does not say specifically that it needs to be documented, but if it's not documented, it doesn't exist. All right, so we definitely need to have that kind of documentation. There are within EM385 an entire library of different types of documentations for equipment, for people, for the work site. So we have to do that. Now, what they wound up doing for those of us who were in the military, and by the way, if you were in the military, I thank you. I'm a member of the United States Marine Corps myself, so I appreciate it. The EM385 incorporates the Army and Navy methodology for minimizing risk during missions. So they are more proactive. We force the contractor to plan out each step or each phase of construction, making sure how we document it, how this is going to be accomplished. With a lot of OSHA projects, we just go and do and hope luck is on our side. I know that that's some of the ways that we've run things in the past. Again, Christy was very generous, just saying I was 30 years in the trade. I've probably been more like 50, but she was trying to trying to make sure because I look so young. All right, humor involved. All right, EM385 will make the contractor plan out each definable feature of work. And for each of those definable feature works, you have got to have a risk assessment with an activity hazard analysis. Again, proactive versus reactive. There are several levels. There's extremely high, there's medium and low risk. 90% of what you need to have in there is all medium or low risk. Or the Army, there are certain subjects that will have high or extremely high, but the Army Corps hopes that your proven track record prior will be able to cover that. Now, most companies and contractors are using EM385 to better their safety culture. I don't want to name names, but there are quite a few that I am working with to get together, and they have seen nothing but positive results. Again, the one I mentioned this morning, I wanted to find out how they were doing yesterday. A year ago, I was on that project to help start it, and they're finishing 3 months ahead of time, and they still have over $3 million in their budget. So they have done very well with that. All right, federal construction service contracts. If you go to get any of the base alignment or any federal construction service contract, you may have to follow EM385. All right, military projects. If you're outside continental United States or inside continental United States on any military base or project, absolutely. Government facilities. Contractors working under the United States Army Corps or naval facilities contracts. So I have a few people that we reach out to all the time here, especially with the council, that work these contracts. They need the EM385 40-hour. So at the end of this program, Kim is going to put on a few of them. Next week, I'm going to go do one private for a naval facilities office. And contractors who want to be better than OSHA. OSHA is the bare minimum. OSHA is the absolute minimum. There's nothing wrong with OSHA, but we can always do better. If we just want to strive to have compliance, we're missing the bigger picture. All right. OSHA's mission, EM385's mission, the mission here at the council is to make sure that everyone goes home at the end of the day to his or her families. Okay, we don't want anybody not being there. All right, and EM385, why it matters because it makes sure that everybody will go. By having us plan out work, by forcing us to be at our best. There are a lot of times when I know I've been out in public service, I've been out in the real world as far as the OSHA world goes, especially in my formative years when I was a young pup. There were so many things that we did not do to adhere to even the base minimum rules. I was forced one time to be placed into a trench that was 11 feet deep. I was told if I don't go in there, I'll get fired. And I asked them, what about OSHA? And they said, OSHA will never find us here. So that was not a good thing. So, and I tell you, it didn't work out well for me. All right, now, ensure compliance with governmental contracts. If we have to follow the government contract, when we are with OSHA, OSHA will cite us and fine us. The government may pull the contract, give it to the next bidder, and we get hit with liquidated damages. All right, we don't want that. Now, everybody wants to reduce accidents, injuries, and fatalities. Nobody wants to have a fatality. So planning out, proper planning prevents poor performance on our goals. If we plan our work out, if we reduce our accidents, injuries, and fatalities through proper planning, we're going to be ahead of the game, and that builds our safety culture. Now, our safety culture is one thing. We have a safety climate. The safety climate is how well the people do. The culture is what the company produces. The climate is how well the people react to it. And we always want to get their input. You always want to have input on what is important, what is not important for us to be there, for how we want to do our job. I always try to get input from the employees. EM385 allows that. Now, it's critical for winning and maintaining government contracts. If you have a proven track record, they're going to wind up staying with you rather than to go out and take their chances. A lot of times we do lowest bidder. So lowest bidder with the best safety performance is always going to shine in the end. We want to make sure that we've got that going on. Now, how some of the things that we approach this, some of the core competency of EM385 is we have the accident prevention plan. So they force you to draw out and put an APP in place. Now, I know that a lot of us have to go out to a job and do a site safety and health plan. We may have a HASP. EM385 says this is for the whole job. So we have to do the APP. Now, the APP has several elements in it. Some of those core elements discusses what types of plans you will use. You will have an APP overall, and then say for a night lighting plan or a fatigue management plan, we have to have certain plans for different things we are doing. And each one of them can't just recreate what's in the APP. The devil is in the details. You have to give me the specifics as to how you are going to pull off your, say, fatigue management plan, where there is a certain amount of hours that we are allowed to work, certain amounts we are required to have off or at rest, and that we're not supposed to be working. I will even throw in, what about drive time? Some of us, myself in particular, when I leave Baltimore, I have a 2.5 hour drive to go back to my house. So we've got to add drive time, all the extra things. Now, the activity hazard analysis. You may know it as a JSA, JHA, pre-task work plan, job safety analysis. Arose by any other name, they require an activity hazard analysis with a risk assessment code so that we can make sure that we are planning out every phase of our work. Now, our site safety and health officer and their duty is to make sure that we are following this plan. We are going through, we are doing what we're supposed to do. The Army Corps will come out, they will have guidance, they will look over us, and they will say, okay, you're not following the plan. We've got to stop. You got to get back on track. You got to do the plan properly. They have the opportunity. They don't really fine us, but they do have the opportunity to stop and say, hey, we're not following the plan here, guys. So we've got to get back on board. Now, there's training and competency requirements. EM385 just got speaking with one of our other students here at the council yesterday, who was looking for ways to maintain his training through EM385 for fall. For the competent person for fall, you have to have 2 hours a year extra training. OSHA does not require that. All right. So specialized requirements for that fall, if you're a rescuer, if you are a end user, if you are the competent person, even for those of us who train that. And the requirement to train goes from the ANSI Z490. Confined space, things of that nature, there are requirements to continually educate yourself, which we can help you provide here at the Chesapeake Region Safety Council for those continuing requirements. All right, now, as far as our accident prevention plans, it has to be project or specific safety program. You have a concurrence, you have a creator, you have a line of authority. You have a lot of people involved with this that have to put their stamp of approval on it. So it has to go through a lot of hands. It is required on all United States Army Corps engineer contracts. Everything has to be in place before we start work, and it has to be improved. Okay, it covers responsibilities, training, hazard control methods, some of our emergency procedures. There are things that OSHA does not force us or mandate us to cover, such as what's going to happen. One of the critical elements of an EM385 is that you have to have the known closest hospital, emergency contact numbers. We will even tell you to have those on a smaller card behind an ID card for every employee, have information in every vehicle that we utilize, so that if there's ever any kind of incident, we have to be able to get over there and do that. Have to make sure that we get this. Now, one of the things that the Army Corps does through their proper planning, if anybody has been under the old Army Corps and you're not familiar, that March of 2024, they came back out with their newest, latest, and greatest edition. What they have done is they have broken that and sectionalized that. Anything, there are 3 new sections. There are 37 chapters. Each chapter is then broken down into different sections based on their new health management safety system. So everything the Army Corps references, I know OSHA has incorporation by reference, and they are not as stringent about it when we get onto it. But anything that Army Corps references will be in TAC 1. Some of these references go into double digits for the amount of information that we need to have, we need to base our equipment on. So just as an aside, we've got to make sure that we are paying attention to all that intel. Now, TAC 2 will be definitions. So anything that Army Corps has a definition on, whether it be soft demolition, whether it be construction, all that, we've got to make sure we're following those definitions. In order to make sure that we are there with a personal required qualification and training, that'll be TAC 3. That tells us everything everybody has to do while we are training, or what kind of qualifications they have for this particular job site. So that's not something that OSHA talks to. It also goes back to how much additional training is required for each type, or each foreman, or whatever your title is, a year, so that you can maintain that. Now, TAC 4 gets into roles and responsibilities. It tells us who's supposed to be doing what, who's who and whoville. All right, it gives us what roles, what responsibilities they have. Now, TAC 5 is inspection requirements. Everything has to be inspected. The Army Corps maintains that you must keep each operator's manual for any vehicle, tool, safety. I'm sure that anybody in construction who has been in construction long enough hands a circular saw in the box with all the manuals to your workers, and then days, weeks, months later, the box is missing, the manuals are gone, the tool or the safety guards probably went with it. Well, we've got to make sure that all this is in and documented. They have a documentation section. They have a proactive, very proactive inspection requirements for the job sites that you have to keep in chronological order for everything you have found, for all the control methods, for not only what you found, but for who's responsible for fixing it and when was it fixed. Now, our AHA, the activity hazard analysis requirements for every section, will be in TAC 6. So whether it's 1 through 37, if it's TAC 6, you know this is where our AHA requirements go. Specific requirements, we'll give an example, how to construct a scaffolding, how it's specifically going to be put together, what are the hazards. OSHA says in 1926 451 G2, it requires that a competent person determine the feasibility or practicability of fall protection while assembling or disassembling a scaffold. EM385 says you will. We don't want anybody to fall regardless. So tell me how you're going to approach this. our plans. So for our APP, we have a plan for each individual thing that we are doing, a night lighting plan, a hazard waste collection plan. Regardless of what it is, you have to have a specific type plan, and anything in Tax 7 will lay those plan requirements out for you. So this is a step-by-step so far of what you need, how to do it. Now, if anybody's been familiar with the old versions of Army Corps, they gave us what they call the general requirements. So in TAC 8, all the general requirements, the same thing that OSHA says, thou shalt not, or thou shalt do this, or thou shalt not do this, is in the general requirements, is in TAC 8. So figures and tables, if there are figures and tables like there is in OSHA, they have them in TAC 9. Everything is brought together in one place. And if there are checklists and forms, all the checklists, all the forms you will need is in TAC 10. And they do have how to fill that out and all kinds of wonderful good things. All right. So that's our APP. We need a specific plan for the site. There's not a lot of times that I remember, and this is just me, I'm not saying that anybody else has had this wonderful opportunity, that when we went out to do a job that we have done day in and day out, that we had any kind of plan. We didn't plan it out. If something went wrong, we dealt with it from there. We were reactive rather than proactive. The proactive APP says if this goes wrong, we're going to do this. It's already worked out, so we're not worrying about it. EM385 does not want anything to happen. They make sure that nothing happens. Did I mention on this project where they are 3 months ahead and they are 3 million ahead? They have had 0 injuries, incidents, illnesses. It is done well because they instituted the APP, they instituted the EM385 way of life. They had to have an AHA on every action, reaction, every job they did. So that AHA identified any potential for hazards. So if there was a fall hazard, it told us how we were going to eliminate it, substitute it, engineer it, administrate it, or what type of PPE we were going to do to get rid of it. It forced you to look at their whole plan for fall protection and fall protection management is based off the ANSI Z359.2. Whereas the difference between what OSHA says in 502D21 that we have to either provide for prompt rescue or self-rescue, the ANSI standard, the M385, requires us to have a written, practiced plan. So it has to be compatible with where we're at on the job site. If it's just, hey, let's go grab a genie lift and bring it up underneath the individual, that's fine. You have had to have tried it and practice it to make sure that that actually works. So whatever the hazards are for each task, they have to be identified. And then we go down to define controls to reduce those risks. What is it we're going to put in place? Can I eliminate it first? Can I substitute it out? Can I engineer it out? Can I use any type of administration program prior to placing somebody in PPE? When I place somebody in PPE, that does not mean they're going to always wear it. I am sure that there are a lot of us out here, and I apologize, I can't see anybody. We had technical difficulties. I was told not to touch anything once I got it working, and that's what I've done. That we have problems even just having somebody put on safety glasses all the time, maybe wearing their hard hat. These are the things that we are required to do. These are the things that Army Corps will help you make sure that you do, or else you will not participate in their little reindeer games. All right. So let's figure out how we're going to define the controls to reduce the risk. If you don't know how you're going to wind up doing that, we have a plethora of options here at the Chesapeake Region Safety Council to help you with. We can help you work with vendors. all kinds of information we can give you. Miss Christie was correct. If you've never been down with us, or if you have, please come back. We have such a large amount of topics that we cover. Miss Kim Beard is always updating the website. So please, if you saw it, we have a lot of free classes that we provide, and we do the Army Corps of Engineers 40-hour construction. So if you're interested in doing this, and again, you'll see this again, to come back and figure out how we do this, we'll be able to help you. Now, all these projects, anything that the Army Corps has, all our AHAs, they have to be reviewed and approved by the Site Safety and Health Officer. Now, that Site Safety and Health Officer, depending on what level you need to be, has to be a responsible individual with no other jobs. Okay, that's your whole job. You are there to inspect. You are signed and approved by signature. That means you're going to be held accountable. So we have to make sure that if there is any update when the work changes, if there's anything that happens, if we're on a job and we are supposed to be not removing all the soil, and now all of a sudden somebody comes down and says, look, even though we think we remediated it, I'm sorry, we had a lead exposure, now we want it all out, we have to change the AHA to say, okay, here's our new additional steps for removing everything. Here's some of the additional hazards. Here's what's going to happen. So anytime anything changes out there, we are responsible for updating those changes. Army Corps, a lot of times in the OSHA world, when something changes, we don't really consider any issues. All right, we just go with the flow. In the Army Corps world, those have to be addressed immediately. All right, so some of the benefits that we get, or some of the things that are required, is our training and our competency. We understand that OSHA says there is training. There's a difference between training and education. Training is typically a hands-on, where we are actually doing something, not just learning about it. Education is just sitting there through. Training is hands-on. So each worker must be qualified and or trained for their task. You also have to have a submission on a government form that says this is what we're doing, this is what we need, and it is documented. Everything gets documented. So if there's anything that happens, we can track it back. It's easier to do our root cause analysis because we documented everything. Well, all of a sudden somebody didn't account for, maybe there was a lightning strike. So now we can start to move forward in our lessons learned and add that into the next plan. We at the council were writing plans for people, and all of a sudden I saw we were getting kickback that there was no eye wash stations when they were doing concrete. Okay, that's something new. We're going to add that in there. Moving forward, we've got it. Some of the key requirements that are talked about between qualification workers is absolutely first aid and CPR. Now, again, my humble opinion, everybody on the job site should be trained in first aid and CPR. It is easy. We make it easy at the council. We work with the National Safety Council. We provide the National Safety Council's first aid train the trainer. You can sign up for the trainer. I'm hoping that there's a lot of people who already have. I'm hoping to reach some of the people that may not know. We teach you to train first aid. You are able to train all your people in first aid. OSHA only requires one, EM 385 requires two. What happens if those two, or that singularity, are the ones who are involved in the incident and need help first? It is better. You get more training, proactive, if everybody on your staff is trained in first aid. All right. Obviously, fall protection training. That is a really, really big thing. They force you, well, and I say force, it is mandatory for you to do your fall hazard survey, for you to look at where you're going first, to figure out what's going to where the falls are, what is the best way to put into progress. Now, there are two subcategories there that all fall protection falls in. They are, excuse me, passive and active. Now, the Army Corps will require you to try to eliminate, substitute, or engineer out. One of the first engineering is passive. Can we put a guardrail? Can we put something permanent that no individual has to do anything on their own? When we get down to the active, when it actively requires the worker to place on a harness for either fall arrest, restraint, positioning, are they wearing it right? Have they been trained? If you've had training and competency with the Army Corps, through all that, you get better sight trained people, you have fewer incidences, and as long as they know how to wear it, harness it, all that. Now, they have competent versus qualified. They have the same definitions that OSHA carries for competent and qualified. But are you the competent person for scaffolding, excavations, fall protection? Some of the questions that come up, in order to be competent for, let's pick excavations, in order to make sure that you are competent for the excavations, you have to know both the OSHA and the EM385 standards. You have to know how all the appendices, you have to know how to classify the soil, you have to know what the protection means and methods are. So it's not just as simple as you being the foreman for the EM385, you may not be competent or qualified. I have gone out on a few jobs and it has showed that there is no actual competent person out there to make sure that the trenching and excavation or the scaffolds have been correct, things of that nature. Army Corps makes sure that you have it. Now, one of the ways they do that is through a site safety and health officer. That is the dedicated safety professional. Most of us, hopefully, I'm not sure who I have speaking to the audience, are our dedicated safety professionals. And there are 3 different levels in the Army Corps of Engineers as to what those site safety and health officers are. So there is an SSHO 1, there is an SSHO 2, and a 3. And depending on the type of work, depending on where we have to be, depending on what we're doing, we have to have those. They are dedicated people. A level 1 is a full-time employee, designated full-time, that has all the roles and responsibilities, has had all the prerequisite training. There's a certain number of level years. A level 2 is a designated employee that could also have collateral duty, but a level 2 can't be assigned to any project that's had the residual rack code of a high or extremely high. So no munitions, no doing hot work around munitions, dam work, dredging, things of that nature. So a level 3 is that person who can meet the requirements they are like a backup, so they can also not serve as the primary on one with a very high rack level. All right, their responsibilities. The safety and health officer carries a lot of weight. All right, their responsibilities are to make sure we implement the APPs, the AHAs. Each one of them has to be reviewed and accepted by the contracting officer or the contracting officer's representative. If you were dealt with the Army Corps in the past, excuse me, they talked about a government designated authority as to whether or not they accepted it. The Army Corps does not accept anything. They approve your submission if it meets the requirements. The Army Corps is hands off now on accepting any responsibility and liability. Therefore, it's very important that your site safety and health officers are well managed, are well trained, and they understand what they have to do. The implementation of the APP and the AHA are the primary methods. This is the Army and the Navy methodology. that we will approach an operation. We will look at what the schedule calls for. Schedule calls for, let's say we'll do something as innocuous as you have just been awarded the contract. You're going to mow in, you're going to set up the office trailer, you're going to set up the required fencing, you're going to set up the required safety and health board that has a certain amount of items that need to be there for the project. So we'll take moving the trailer in. Your AHA has to decide what are the hazards they're struck by as we're bringing it in. If you are hooking up the electric there's electrical, there's falls if it has to come in from the top. So all that has to be brought in. You have to document what you're doing, how you're doing it, what your control methods are. And in the AHA, it also says, are there specific training requirements? Does somebody have to be qualified? Does somebody have to be competent? And what are those requirements? And if there's any training that has to do with tools, not only do you have the training on that tool, but do you have the operator's manual with that tool? Now, obviously, in both the books, OSHA and Army Corps, they say conduct safety inspections daily, frequently, as needed. OSHA says frequent and regular. To me, that is so wide open. But in the preamble, or why they put it that way, what specific time, how many times, how often do you have to look at your space to make sure everything is good? Now, the difference between OSHA and Army Corps needs you to document those daily safety inspections. If you didn't find anything good, right, that you didn't find anything. Okay, but if you did find something, it goes in chronological order from the start of the project to the end of the project. You have to give me a certain who found what was it, who's it assigned to get fixed, when is the date it's going to get fixed, when did it actually get fixed? So that I want another level that says, well, why didn't it get fixed on time? What did we not miss? What did we not know? Did we not know that they had something back ordered or something off that nature? Did we not know we had the training to fix it? So that future use, we're always preparing for us to be better than we were yesterday. Coordinating, training, emergency drills. They don't want you to talk about it. They want you to be about it. They want you to do drills. Anything that you think you drill on. Now, all this is going to take time and money, but you're getting the contract. They expect you to play by the rules. Now, emergency response training has to provide for fire prevention. There are 2 places in the OSHA book that says you have to have a fire prevention program. Most people I deal with don't do that. All right, you have to have this program. What are your sources of fire? EM385 is going to ask you, what are your sources? What are your sources of ignition? Who lights what? Who stays back to protect what? Who's in charge? Is there a floor monitor, hall monitor, all that? Medical emergencies. Think of anything that could possibly happen and plan for that. Have evacuation procedures, know where we're going, have severe weather plans. Most of our operations on an Army Corps job, depending on listening to the weather and exactly what we have to do, when we have to ground our cranes, when we have to do certain things. So the weather is not something OSHA is worried about. The weather is something that EM385 is certainly very peculiar about. Some of their specialized requirements are, everybody knows, or if you don't know, welcome to my world. General industry is 4 feet. My maritime is 5 feet for fall protection. Construction is 6. Longshoring is 8. Scaffolding is 10. Steel erecting is 15. Steel connecting is 30. Cranes, 6 and 15. Why all this nonsense? Okay, it's 4 and 6. I don't care if it's sticks and bricks. EM385 says this is safer. Yes, it may place you in a bigger bind. It may make you do more things, but we're okay with that. We're okay with you doing the work it takes to make sure nobody gets hurt. Confined space protocols. Okay, where OSHA allows an attendant to monitor more than one space at a time, that's never going to happen in EM385. We have our electrical safety. They have their hazard electrical program. They have their hazard communication. You have to select the proper type of personal protective equipment. General industry requires you to do a written hazard assessment, pretty much what you have to do for EM385. Now, if we're going to implement it, we have to understand the manual and the requirements. And again, there are 37 specific sections to the manual. If I had enough time, I would run through every one of them. But the ones that we need to concern ourselves with first is section 2. That is the safety and health required by us, the contractors. Okay, you have to develop an APP for your project. It has to be specific to all the hazards, all the tasks. But the good thing is, once you have a outline and a plan for this, I still use the old checklist plan from the old 385 that lays it out specifically. You can develop yours from your project, and then you can tweak it as needed for future projects. You conduct your AHAs. If you do the same type of work, if you're trenching, digging, if you're painting, you develop these AHAs, and all you have to start changing is who's doing it, what the job number is. You have a running bank of this. Now you're already starting a library of safety. You assign and train a site safety and health officer. And certainly with the training that we offer at the Chesapeake Region Safety Council and the Mid-Atlantic OSHA Training Institute and Education Center, we can certainly help you. All right. Provide worker training and certifications. Everything has to be documented. There is not a training yet that it does not require the certain amount of documentation and on their form or on a specific type that they will accept. Again, the daily safety inspections. Oh my goodness. If we don't inspect, we can't expect. We have got to be out there doing our thing. We got to maintain records and documentation, maintain it throughout the entire length of the project, readily available for anybody that sees it, just like it says in OSHA. That for the secretary or his or her designees, when they want to come out and they want to look at all the records, everything has to be there and everything has to be maintained. Now, Chesapeake Region Safety Council provides a 40-hour EM385 1-1 training program to provide how to do all the above. We are more than happy to have you come in and walk through it. Now, some of the challenges to implementation, obviously, what's the biggest cost any of us worry about is money, money, money. Guess what? You want to be the best? It costs, okay? You got to allow additional time and additional resources. There is a very strict documentation program. You have to keep very strict documents. There is no, wait a minute, I think I had that around here somewhere. Wait a minute, let me look for that. Higher training requirements, and it is 100% contractor accountability. So in OSHA, we do have a slight fallback where we can say, look, this was purely employee misconduct. You have trained all the employee misconduct out. All right. So unfortunately, you're on the hook. Now, we did say there's a whole lot of good things to come from it. So here's our benefits. You provide, you create, you make, every time we do this, a much safer work environment. If you are constantly doing these inspections, you are constantly seeing what needs attention. You have trained all your people to do this as well. If I have 30 people out on a job site, I have 30 safety inspectors that are all looking out for each other. They're all looking out for us. They're looking out for the well-being of themselves and the company. And that's just one of the benefits. We all know compliance with government standards. You are held to the strictest, whether it be OSHA, whether it be EM385, whether it be something out of general industry, whether it be something out of one of the other industries or one of the other government agencies. Some of the Department of Energy is more strict. So it also reduces liabilities and claims. Who does not want to save money on their car insurance by switching to Army Corps of Engineers. You thought I was going to say Geico. I know you. So if your liabilities and your claims go down, we have a bigger pocketbook to draw from. Better project performance. Everybody knows what's expected of them. Everybody is on time. Everybody knows. And you get a stronger reputation with government agencies. When they say, oh, XYZ, yes, those are the people we want to go with. I have seen that live and in person with a certain governmental agency, with a certain contractor, that they have such a good reputation, they're not even taking anybody else's bid. All right. So as we start to round down, train supervisors and workers early. These are tips for success. Early and often. I believe Kim Beard says early and often. Make safety part of the daily routines. And then do me a favor, bring out your management, bring out the people who are at the top and show them what's going on down here. Engage employees in hazard identification. The more training they have, the more they do, the more they know the rules, the more hazards they're going to be able to identify for us. Use technology for documentation. Yes, I'm kind of an older dinosaur who liked paper, but if there's something that's going to make my life easier, I'm going to use technology. And encourage open communication. All right. Make sure that everybody is free from retaliation for bringing up. Make sure they're involved. Make sure that they can understand and talk about, hey, these are the things that we want to help. Now, in summary, as we went through EM 385 1-1, Safety and Health Requirements Manual. There is, and you will get it if you come to our training. I don't know, with my screen blurred, we have a copy of that. Why it matters, compliance, safety, contract success. We all want to be successful. How to implement the APP, AHA, the SSHOs, the training, the inspection. The benefits far outweigh the challenges. We have so much ability that we have. Now, some of the resources that we have available: United States Army Corps of Engineers, EM 385 1-1 manual, the OSHA regulations, the United States Army Corps of Engineers Safety and Health Program website. They're different. So if you go to headquarters website, and of course, our wonderful and beloved Chesapeake Region Safety Council. So at this point, I'm going to turn it back to Kim. I'm going to open the floor for discussions and questions. And if you have anything else, I'm here for you.
Awesome. He is here for us. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Ms. Beard.
Let's see. We do have a couple questions. I am gonna share, John, I'll give you a second to, if you need a drink of water or something, I'm
Sure.
going
Thank you.
to share a couple of things with all of our guests here today. So if you enjoyed this webinar, I know I did, and I learned a lot. We would love for you to join us again later this month on September 24th. We have a national webinar that we're participating in. It's confined space, a focus on rescue. And I am going to pop the link to that in the chat, but it's the same place where you registered for this webinar. So I'll put that in the chat for you all. And then that's what you're doing on September 24th. And then on September 25th, you will be hopefully attending the Chesapeake Region Safety Council's annual Safety and Health Conference. We really hope that all of you get a chance to come up to Towson, Maryland, which is just not far from our headquarters here in Baltimore County, and for a full day of awesome breakout sessions and exhibitors, networking, always great food, right, when you come to take training with the Safety Council. So I'll drop that link for registration in the chat as well. I personally promise you it's the best $195 that you will spend today. Totally worth the time off from work. So we hope that you will attend. And as I stop sharing, let me remember how to do that. We do have a couple questions, John, and let's see what we have here. I'm gonna go first to the chat. Okay, let's see. Am I going hardest to easiest? It's hard to say. It's hard to say. Okay. John, I'll read this all for you. And if we can get to a couple of these, if we miss some of your questions, I will kindly ask John to gather the answers, and we'll get them back out to you. It's no problem at all. And my email will be in the chat here as well in just a few minutes. So, John, the question from the chat is, we need to perform maintenance on equipment located on a flat roof of a government-owned building. Our contract requires us to follow fall protection standards, but since we don't own that building, we cannot install permanent guardrails or certified anchors. If suitable, non-engineered anchor points are available. We'll use them. If not, after exhausted elimination, substitution, and engineering controls, we are left with administrative options, just all the ideas that you mentioned earlier. From my understanding, safety monitors are not permitted under the government standards. Given these restrictions, what temporary or owner-approved fall protection systems can be used to keep contract workers compliant and protected? Is that something you can answer, John? Or
Yes, ma'am.
does this person have to come to our 40-hour
Well, I would like them to come to our
EM?
40-hour, but yes, ma'am, I can
Thanks,
answer
John.
that off the top.
Great.
There are certain non-penetrating options for guardrails, for other kind of roof tie-offs. I understand we don't own building. As far as the safety monitor, in the new Army Corps, they do allow a safety monitor with a warning line or some other passive control. But there are a number of places that if I deal with some of our wonderful people, especially, got to say brand name here, Sales Solutions and Fall Tech, they have a plethora of information available for non-penetrating roof safety. So
Thanks, John.
maybe that'll help.
I think
If
so.
they go to a
Thanks.
monitor, my issue with the monitor is that you are relying on a human being who is not going to be on his or her telephone, and how much they care about their job or care about their fellow workers. So a warning line system can be placed up, can be utilized with that. So hopefully that helped.
Thank you. Great question coming in from Kelsey. For the fall protection competency requirements, does the competent person require 24 hours of training, or does the trainer need to have 24 hours of training to then train a competent person for that job?
Okay, the competent person for fall protection, this comes directly from 21 TAC 3C, has to have an initial 24 hours of course class combined with a formal classroom, and then at least 2 years annual refresher. And if you really wanted me to show off, that would be 21 TAC 3C3. Sorry.
John, I was waiting for the show off.
Okay, well,
Well, we all were, weren't we?
yes, we
We were
need
all
the
waiting for
initial
it.
24 to be the competent person, and then we need 2 years after the fact for each year. Some kind of training. It can be a rescue related, it could be a meeting, it could be something that we have at the Chesapeake Region Safety Council.
And that you actually just in a way answered the other question in our Q&A, and the question was, is there a refresher EM35 course available to those who already hold the EM35 certificate?
If they hold the EM35 certificate, there is no real refresher, but if they've held it prior to 2024, everything since 2024 has significantly changed. Still, most of the information is based on contract time. We don't offer a refresher. We just come back for the new 40-hour.
Yeah.
I have not been able to get a word from the Army Corps whether I could develop a refresher for them or not. So
that sounds good. And just as a reminder, maybe not for the 40-hour, but for other required training or updates, refreshers, the council can certainly be in contact with you if you need private training. I know we want you all to come to the Richmond, Dulles, Norfolk, Chesapeake, Baltimore
Ocean City.
locations, Ocean City, our community, our partners up in Pennsylvania. But we're happy to come on site too as well. And if you're lucky, we'll send John your way. But let's see if there's anything virtual. A question in the chat: will there be a virtual EM35? Yes. In fact, thank you for asking that question for the 40-hour, because while John was giving his presentation, I actually happened to add a virtual training. It's Zoom, so it's live, and that's going to be in January of 2026. So, oh, and here's my life hack for all these chats. Like, I'm throwing out these links to everybody. You get to see it, and you're trying to watch the webinar. go ahead and scroll through and copy and paste. I personally like to just load up my own personal email with these with these links, something that you can check back to later for registering for the EM35, for signing up for the conference. But you can find that all on our website. And if you need help with that, just give us a call with any of these things. And the email is in the chat here as well, safety@chesapeakesc.org. I think most of you know that when you call here, we'll answer the phone. So feel free to reach out to us. John Rothe, I cannot thank you enough for taking your time today
Well, there
to
is one way
present
you can
this.
thank me.
Oh, yes. How
And
would
I
that
want
be,
to,
sir?
I unfortunately did not get a chance to see any of the comments, anything in the chats. We had some technical difficulties this morning, and once we had it, I wasn't allowed to touch
I told him
anything.
not to touch it.
So if I missed
Yes.
anybody, I want to say hi to the people who've said hi to me. I did see, and
Yes.
Stacy, it's very nice to see you again. So I can't see anybody, but I hope you're all doing well. And please, please, please come to the Chesapeake Region Safety Council training.
Thank you, John. We
Thank
look
you, ma'am.
forward to seeing you again soon. This presentation has been recorded. It'll be on our website in just a couple of days. So, on behalf of the Chesapeake Region Safety Council, we want you to all have a safe, fun, and most importantly, an adventurous weekend. Thanks, everybody.